Everybody, Michael Martin, thanks for being here. So, one kind of theme I get in many of my emails is around holding periods and the uncertainty that goes with that holding. And that's tricky proposition, right? Because you have to feel all kinds of feelings that you might not feel comfortable feeling. So let's use the concept of R, right? R is your risk unit. It could be a dollar amount. I tend to use percentages, but you can do what you want. And say that you risk 1R, and whenever you are up 3R, you are lifting the trade. You're going to offset it. Could be day-wise, could be several days like a swing trade. Maybe it's longer. But the idea is that you're probably on the shorter end of the holding periods, maybe intraday to 1 or 2 days, and your goal is to try to hold the position longer when it's winning. So tactically, there's a couple of things you can do. Very simple. That is, as the thing moves in your favor, you can adjust your protective stop. You could do it several ways. You can set it up so that you trade with a trailing 1R stop. No matter where the top tick might be in the near term, you have a 1R stop below as the market moves. You could do it manually and wait to be, couple of R, 1R in the money, even though 3R might be your price target, so to speak, or the level that you're going to be looking to remove risk. And so once you get to say 1R of unrealized gains, you can adjust your protective stop and move that to break even. Some people like to call that a free trade. I myself do not, but I understand why they say that. At that moment in time, you could also sell a piece of the position so that you locked in a profit. And if the other piece comes back and knocks you out, you get that as a break even. So you can do nothing necessarily, then make money on that trade. But since the question starts with how can I hold longer, I take that to mean how can I hold my position longer and make more money, right? Because why would you want to hold a position longer to invite the propensity for the thing to move against you? It wouldn't make sense, right? So I can only assume that means you want to hold the position longer so you can make more money, which is what you should be thinking. And so, aside from the tactical things that I just mentioned, which I don't necessarily think are terribly new, but they're effective, you have to remember, I've mentioned this before, if you have it set up in your mind that whenever you have an instrument that you're trading, could be a stock, could be futures contract, and you get to plus 3R, and no matter what, you take those positions off and you remove the risk like clockwork, you guarantee that you're never going to have a 5R or a 10R trade, right? So just be mindful of that. Like it stunts, you're taking profits even at 3R. Someone who's a smart aleck can come back to you and say, hey, you're taking your profits too soon, even at 3R. And so you remove the possibility to have that outlier move in your favor. Now, if at 1R of profitability, you decided to remove half the position and keep the rest, then maybe you let that grow. But just be mindful of your behavior is that, there's nothing wrong with taking your profits at 3R, but just realize what does it do for you? How does it serve you? Because there's pros and cons to it. So one thing that you can do that might make sense for your style of trading, since there's a million different people watching the show here, is to go back and look at just even like the last month or two, if that's your style to kind of day trade, swing trade, and remove everything at say 3R. Go back and say, look at those names that you had been in, that you took off profitably at plus 3R, and just see where it went the next week, the week after that, or what have you. So I'm not saying that you can be a day trader and hold overnight or go intraday and then all of a sudden try to hold something for 2 weeks, because it's probably not congruent with your personality. But you could certainly learn a lot. Because again, the feelings that you don't want to feel have as much control over you as the ones that you do. So what happens at 3R? You wake up and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, the thing's going to go back down to my entry point and my 3R of unrealized gains is going to go away, will go away. It's not terribly logical or practical, but if you're in fear of letting your winners go back to zero, I guess that's a feeling. In my experience, it doesn't typically happen that way. But again, if you're trailing your stop all along the way, the thing can reverse on you very, very quickly and you can still get out. Heck, you could set it up so that once you get to 1R in profitability, you could trail with a half an R, right? Trailing stop. So there's a million ways to kind of carve it out and get the technology to work for you so that it does it automatically and you don't have to worry about it. Because ultimately, you don't want to burn yourself out mentally when you're in a winning trade. So for a lot of people, they talk about the pain of winning, right? And this is the toughest trade, is how to take profits. So what I would do is go back and look at the past 2 months or so, or even the past year. Depends how much time you have. Depends on the relative strength of how you want to look at this and get your answer. And that's really a very personal decision, but you might be able to see that we're not every time, but maybe 10 or 20% of the time when you lifted the trade at 3R, it in fact went to 5R or plus. Now, there's certain simulators out there that when they show you the simulation, they can actually break it down and show you the bell curve of the distribution of returns on a per trade basis, and then group them and show you that, yes, the majority of them kind of hang out by the mean that are like, minus 0.5% or whatever your main stop is. That's going to see a lot of activity on your losing trades, so that your winning trades might be anywhere from lose 0.5% all the way to make 3%. You could see that's going to be probably the biggest area under the bell curve. And then as you look at the outliers, you should have a short one on the left side, because most of the time you're going to get stopped out. So there's no real reason for you to take a 10R loss unless you were trading way too big, or there was a gigantic gap against you, which will happen like 1 in 5,000 trades. It's not anything that I worry about, and I've been trading a long time. So then you think, okay, I just want to extend my winners. Why? Well, because I'm already in the winning trade, right? I did all the hard work. I did the analysis. I got my entry right. I got my position size right. Now it's making me money. How can I learn to be more abundant and let the market do the work for me? So the best thing that I could do is treat every day like it's a new trade. You wake up, there's the open, you're up 50 cents. Okay, so that's your entry on the day. Where's my risk? It's going to be based upon, what am I willing to risk out of my unrealized gains in order to stay in the winning trade? Now, sometimes you might get knocked out at 2R. Sometimes it might move up, you get knocked out at 4. But the idea is that you're in the winning trade. All you have to do is kind of sprinkle it with a little water, fertilize it, and let the thing go. Now, maybe that's with a whole or part position, but that's one way that you can train yourself to hold on to those positions. Maybe consider selling half, raise just your protective stop to break even, and then let the rest of it run, so that you might have like a 5, 6, 7R trade on half of your original position. And try that for a little while and see how that feels, and then learn to hold them longer. Because there's nothing wrong with taking profits on the day. It's just that tomorrow you have to recreate that whole process, and that's a lot of work. It's a lot of mental energy. And in my opinion, if you're in a winning trade, there's nothing that says you can't extend that trade and hold on to it as long as it's making you money. Because you get paid to have risk, right? Overnight and over the weekend tend to be very important times if you have risk premia in your portfolio. You get paid for it. So try those 2 examples and see if they fit. If it doesn't, get back to me and I'll see if I'll come up with another idea. Anyway, please like and subscribe. Consider leaving a comment. I see everything myself. It gives me good feedback on the content of the shows. And if you'd also like to suggest a topic, I'd be happy to listen. Thanks very much, folks. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, everybody, thanks for being here. Please take a minute, like and subscribe to the show. You could also leave a comment. I don't have all the answers, so it's good to get some feedback. Also, if you would like to support the show, check out the links below. You can get the free audiobook of The Inner Voice of Trading, and also information about the course that I teach with Victor Sperandio. Thanks for being here, folks. I'll see you tomorrow.